I'm Asaki Matsuzaki, a psychiatrist. Have you ever heard the term Trump Derangement Syndrome? I hadn't either until recently. So Trump Derangement Syndrome refers to a state in which a person develops intense hatred or hostility toward Donald Trump, the President of the United States, and as a result loses their ability to make calm and objective judgments. More specifically, overreacting emotionally or irrationally to any kind of information related to President Trump. Criticizing his policies or statements in a way that lacks logic, fairness, or objectivity, or perceiving Trump supporters as enemies without any clear reason. Such points often come up in this context. In March 2025, a bill was reportedly introduced in the Minnesota State Senate calling for Trump Derangement Syndrome to be classified as a mental disorder. It is important to note that Trump Derangement Syndrome is not a medical diagnosis. It's not listed in the DSM-5, the globally used manual by the American Psychiatric Association. Nothing matches in theirs. Search on PubMed, a database for medical research, yields no relevant academic papers. There's no established diagnostic criteria either. So why is something like this happening? There are three possible explanations. First, perhaps it's an attempt to understand and support people who experience serious mental distress or struggle in their social and daily lives as a result of Trump's presence or actions. Secondly, it may not be about labeling individuals as mentally ill, but rather an effort to analyze a social phenomenon, more of a sociological approach. If it's either of these two, then perhaps this concept could help society in some way. However, as you may already be thinking, the third possibility seems the most likely. It's an attempt to undermine the voices of those who oppose Trump. During the French Revolution, revolutionary leaders labeled their opponents as insane to silence them. In the Soviet Union, which is now Russia, political dissidents were once forcibly confined to psychiatric hospitals. And in 2003, a political commentator coined the term Hillary Clinton Derangement Syndrome to describe those who opposed Hillary Clinton. But back in 2017, when Trump became president, a petition circulated calling for his removal on the grounds that he was mentally unfit for office. Psychiatry should not be used as a tool for political criticism. I'm strongly opposed to that. Because to me, it implies an underlying assumption that people with mental disorders are not to be trusted and that what they say must be wrong. Saying that Donald Trump is mentally ill, therefore his decisions might be wrong, or that anyone who criticizes Hillary Clinton is mentally ill and wrong, or even that those who criticize Trump must be mentally ill and wrong. All of these statements imply that what people with mental disorders say doesn't count. They all amount to denying those people's judgment and character. Psychiatry is a bit unique in this sense. For example, if someone has a stomachache, they go to the doctor, and based on that visit, they may be diagnosed with a stomach ulcer. That's how most medical diagnoses work, based on the patient's will and their visit to a medical institution. But in psychiatry, there are cases where a diagnosis or intervention happens without the patient's consent. For instance, when someone has severe hallucinations or delusions and poses a danger to themselves or others. Now, how about in this case? taking that kind of exceptional situation and using it politically against your opponents, that's just wrong. Earlier I mentioned 3 possible motivations behind this. Let's go back to the first one. Understanding and helping people who suffer mental distress or daily difficulties due to Donald Trump's presence. For that, instead of Trump derangement syndrome, a better term might be the Trump stress effect. The Trump stress effect refers to the mental stress or anxiety caused by Donald Trump's presence or actions as president. Constant anxiety caused by the uncertainty and unpredictability surrounding his policies. And then there are things like immigration policy, healthcare reform, and environmental issues, topics that could affect one's personal values or way of life, which may cause significant stress. Emotional exhaustion from the constant exposure to Trump-related news on a daily basis. Feeling mentally drained from the ongoing conflict and heated arguments between Trump supporters and critics on social media, or even damaged relationships with family or friends due to political disagreements about President Trump. Those are the kinds of possibilities we can consider. So yes, we've covered a lot here, but my role isn't politics. I'm here to talk about mental health because that's my specialty as a psychiatrist. No matter what direction politics takes, I truly hope people everywhere can stay mentally well.
That's all from me today.